I'd like to call the meeting to order. I am Tim Cavanaugh, Chairman of the Metropolitan Utilities District Board of Directors, and I'd like to welcome you all to the committee meetings this afternoon, April 2nd, 2025. The meeting is being live streamed from the boardroom at the M.U.D headquarters building located 7350 World Communications Drive. A recording of this meeting will be uploaded to the M.U.D website after the meeting's conclusion. Safety briefing. I'd like to invite Vice President of Safety and Security, Shane Hunter, to provide a briefing regarding protocol for all individuals in attendance at the board meeting today in the event of an emergency. Shane.
Good morning. Shane Hunter, Vice President of Safety and Security. We're located here on the main floor at M.U.D headquarters, and we came in through the back of the room. That's the exit that we can use. It should be noted that we can also use this exit here on the right-hand side. Through that door, there's a fire extinguisher and a first aid kit, as well as a little bit farther down the hallway is the nearest AED. Location of the nearest AED in mind, a show of hands, who's AED and CPR trained in the room? Thank you. Should there be a medical emergency in this space today, 911 will be contacted by the security team, and they'll escort EMS personnel into this space. If we need to leave this room for whatever reason, we can leave through either door, but if we're going to evacuate the building, we'll go through that door, take two lefts, and end up in the parking garage. For accountability, it should be noted, too, that it is severe weather season, and right through that door is the severe weather shelter in that hallway, and that concludes the safety briefing.
Thank you, Shane. Roll call, please.
Howard. Here. Kavanaugh.
Here.
Begley.
Here.
Cook.
Here.
Friend.
Here.
Sidzik.
Here.
McGowan.
Here.
I would like to advise all those in attendance that a copy of the Open Meetings Act is available on the wall in the back of the boardroom. At this time, the chair will entertain a motion to go into closed session, and please include the reason.
I move that we go into closed session for the purpose of a hearing on employment termination.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Howard.
Yes.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Begley.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Sidzik.
Yes.
McGowan.
Yes.
We're now in closed session. Minute, and then we're going to reconvene. Is Dave Friend connected?
I'm here.
Okay.
I keep telling her that. I keep saying it too. Well,
The chair will entertain a motion to return to open session. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Howard.
Here.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Begley.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Friend.
Here remotely.
Sidzik. Here. McGowan.
Here?
CNO, Senior Vice President and Chief Operations Officer Kendall Miner will review the proposed capital expenditures behind tab 5. Kendall?
Afternoon. This for the board meeting for the month of April. I have a total of 11 capital expenditures, 7 items from buildings, plants, and equipment, 4 items for system improvements. The first item under building, plants, and equipment that I want to discuss is item number 5, Mormon Road Pump Station Northwest, which is approximately $200,000. This is to replace some actuated discharge valves. 2 of the actuated discharge valves is really to prevent Zone 2 water from feeding back into Zone 1, which that Zone 1 pump is not in operation currently now. These valves were originally installed back in 1962, and so due to 11-month lead time, this installation will occur early 2026. So all work will be performed by district crews. My next item that I want to discuss is item number 7 on the Florence Water Production Facility. This is $131,000 to replace the chemical building UPS. Right now, this is to purchase and install a replacement uninterruptible power source. This source, the UPS failed back in March 16th, and is currently being bypassed and leaving affected circuits without power interruption protection. So due to a 9-week lead time on this item, this is a ratification to allow for immediate purchase. The last item I want to discuss on system improvements is item number 4, is to relocate gas and water mains, which is approximately $312,000. This is to eliminate conflicts with proposed grading, paving, and storm sewers in Douglas County. This project is anticipated to begin in the spring of 2025 and constructed by district crews as well. The water main relocations associated with this project will be reimbursable in the amount of $216,000. The gas main relocations are not reimbursable as the mains are in the public right-of-way. This CNA was previously approved at the March board meeting at approximately $566,000 and has been revised to reflect the relocation needed for Douglas County design changes. With that concludes all of my CNAs. Do you guys have any questions, concerns for me?
I do on number 7 on replacing the ups. That seems to be a critical purchase.
It is.
I don't know about anybody else. I would have been fine if you went ahead and just ordered it then and then asked for forgiveness when you come to the board, but that is a critical piece of this protection for that facility. If it's going to take 9 weeks?
Yes, sir.
So
9-week lead time.
Okay, I've said my piece.
I mean, Director Kavanaugh, I do have a few more items I would like to bring forward too, if you would like for me to just go ahead and order them.
Not yet.
Okay, all right. Yes, it has been ordered. Yeah, this has been ordered as a ratification. All right.
I guess I have a question procedure-wise. Let's say it's something like this, and it's probably a rare thing. What does the board do? Couldn't you just send us an email and then we Mark Mendenhall write something out and then we can do it that way? just for my own edification.
I would think so.
That is a possible thingy. a
Yeah,
thing that we can do.
Right, and that's
Alright.
normally what we do. We normally order it and then call it out as a ratification and
Alright.
come back and present it to the board for
Right.
approval.
I mean,
Okay.
unforeseeable, but we can always cancel the order, correct?
I think so.
Not in this case, but,
A restocking fee, I'm sure, is end up,
well, if it's just ordered, not delivered.
right.
Mark Doyle, President. You've seen some ratifications on board meetings that we already did it, and I'm always a little nervous about that. So I would say if it was anything I was more than a little nervous, I'd start by giving the chair a call and saying, we got something we need to do, here's why.
Yes.
But that's a great question. We, for the future, we always want to clear these things up for those that come
Right.
after. Because
And
that is
and
something,
Yeah, you want a process, but you don't want to be hemmed in by
Right.
a process.
And I would like to say we've always granted you flexibility in the way you do your job.
Well, you've never
And
said
anytime you've ever exercised that, we've always agreed with you.
well, I appreciate that. Thank you. But we'll never take that for granted.
All right, all right, thank you.
Okay, services, no. Director of Plant Engineering, Trevor Tonagis, will review acceptance of contracts and payment of final estimates behind tab 6. Trevor?
Good afternoon. Trevor Tonagis, Director of Plant Engineering. This month, for the acceptance of contracts and payment of final estimates, have 8 projects on the list for you that we're seeking approval for. The first is listed under item A. This was a joint contract that we did with the City of Omaha. Tab Construction completed this work. It was on 108th Street, just north of the Dodge Expressway, and there was just over a half mile of 8-inch ductile iron pipe on that project. 2 others that I'll point out to you were items C and D. These were water infrastructure replacement projects. The first one was over 4,000 feet of 8-inch and 6-inch water pipe, and then there was 500 feet of 12-inch pipe on that one, and also 228 service reconnections, so a pretty significant job. The other one is item D. This was also a water infrastructure replacement job. Successfully completed by Hymas Corp, and this one was 3,600 feet of 8-inch pipe and 1,300 feet of 6-inch pipe, and 100 services that were connected to New Main on this. Both these jobs were successfully completed, and we're about 3% under the bid estimate as bid. And then the last item I'll point out, just because of the numbers on it, is item F. This was a development job near 13th and Casper Streets, near Bellevue West High School. This one had a change order that, not a huge dollar amount, but relative to the size of the contract, it was. So just wanted to point that one out. This was at the request of the developer who funded this job. They wanted additional pipe augering to maintain a construction entrance, a second entrance, and this one was successfully completed by Mechanic Corporation. That is all I have for you, unless there are questions. Okay, thank you.
Vice President of Procurement and Enterprise Services, John Zellers, will now review bids on materials and contracts behind tab 7. John?
All right, good afternoon. John Zellers, Vice President, Procurement and Enterprise Services. Bids on materials and contracts are found under tab 7. And the first item that I will be discussing is at the bottom of page 1, which is a ratification. We are requesting ratification of the purchase of 3 3/4-ton pickup trucks utilizing a state of Nebraska contract. Gene Steffi agreed to extend the pricing to the district under the state contract if the order was placed prior to April 1st, as price increase of 2% was going to be implemented by the manufacturer on April 1st. The next item may be found on the top of page 3. We received bids for 4 30,000-pound trailers. We are recommending the 5th low bid from True North HDD. The low bidder was considered non-responsive as they did not complete all the required forms or provide all the requested information for their bid to be appropriately analyzed. The second low bid did not meet specifications, taking exceptions to 12 items, including the type of axles and utilizing lower strength steel in the construction of the trailers. Both the third and fourth low bidder offered trailers manufactured by Ready Haul. Last March, we bid 3 of these same 30,000-pound trailers, in which a distributor for Ready Haul was the low bidder, stating the trailers met specifications with 3 exceptions that we deemed minor. The trailers were scheduled to be delivered in June, but were not received until October. Upon review of the delivered trailers, several items were found not meeting specifications, including the type of axles, batteries, tires, deck construction, loading ramps, and electrical wiring. The trailers were returned, and we received the first one back approximately 2 weeks ago on March 20th. All corrections to the deficiencies were accepted. However, we have not received the other 2 Ready Haul trailers. The district has 17 30,000-pound trailers in its fleet, including the 3 Ready Haul trailers I just discussed. The other 14 are felling trailers that have performed well for the district since 2008. The bid from True North HDD is for felling trailers, and their bid is recommended for approval. After a year in service, the 3 Ready Haul trailers will be evaluated, and a determination will be made as to whether they will be considered for future bids. The next item is further down the page. We are recommending the approval of M&H Equipment's bid for a large forklift. The board may recall awarding the purchase of the same type of forklift to M&H Equipment last October. M&H Equipment has agreed to extend the same pricing as last October's purchase. The last few items may be found under the annuals heading on pages 4 and 5. We are recommending the extensions for the high-density polyethylene water pipe and liquid nitrogen. Both vendors have agreed to hold current pricing and terms. The last item is for the repair of concrete and asphalt pavement at various district construction sites. The board may recall past discussions on the difficulties finding contractors for this work, as it is not steady or defined quantity of work, making it difficult for contractors to dedicate resources. We have also had challenges with previous contractors with the quality of work, responsiveness, and complaints from our customers. In 2021, we took a different approach in which we reached out to 16 contractors, requesting them to participate in a request for qualifications. Of these contractors, only 2 submitted qualifications. We invited both contractors to submit proposals in which only Burrell Enterprises responded. Burrell was awarded a 1-year contract in which they performed well, delivering high-quality work in a timely manner. In 2022, Burrell was awarded a 3-year contract structured such that pricing is renegotiated between the district and Burrell each year, accounting for changes in the market such as labor and material costs, and brought to the board for approval. Burrell continues to perform well and has continued to grow a positive reputation with the district by handling an expanded workload with tighter deadlines. Burrell has demonstrated where other contractors have struggled to successfully manage the varying workload, execution of timelines, and quality standards by the district. We recommended another 3-year contract with Burrell Enterprises to continue repairs of paving at various district construction sites, in which pricing will be renegotiated annually and brought to the board for approval. Today, we are asking for the approval of Burrell's bid for 1 year. And that's all I have, but would be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, John.
All right, thank you.
Services and Extensions, Vice President of Engineering Masania will review the proposed main extensions behind tab 9.
Good afternoon, Masania, Vice President of Engineering. Behind tab 9 this month, we've got 2 water main projects. The impact of these water main extensions include water service and fire protection for 4 multi-family lots and wholesale water service to the city of Gretna. I'd like to speak to the second project, which is the wholesale water service for Gretna. I've got a map to share here. If Jay, you can pull that up. Thank you. This project includes a 16-inch water main along Highway 370 from 180th to 183rd Street that will initially provide the city of Gretna with 1.5 million gallons of water per day. Gretna needs more water to meet the needs of the growing population in their water service area, and we'll get the district's water to their, really get the water to their doorstep. The proposed water main extension can be seen in that short red line there along Highway 370, and that blue line represents their service boundary. Gretna plans to maintain and use their wells along with their 2 water towers for storage and peak hour needs, while the wholesale connection will provide a base load to meet the needs of the growing community. That helps us where we're not compounding our peak hour challenges. So that's a good thing that they've got their wells and storage in place. Also, for the inquiring minds, the Gretna outlet water tower, that's not part of this water system for Gretna. That they do own their own system there for the outlet malls, since that's a popular landmark that a lot of people see along I-80. The two water towers that they maintain, they've got one near 240th and Highway 370, and another one just on the south end of town that they built. And if you look to the east along Highway 31, you'll see it there. There has been a great deal of progress with this, a lot of collaboration between engineering, business development, legal, and accounting, and to get us to this point. The level of coordination and communication with Gretna has also been great, and we had Mayor Evans last summer mention how M.U.D is a great partner in getting us to this point, so I just wanted to point that out, the effort done by our employees. So that is all I have to present, and would be happy to answer any questions.
Hey, Masa, the Gretna water service area, does that correspond with their city limits, their entire city limits?
No, it doesn't. So you can see their city boundary, really where the development's at in the aerial. The boundary goes well beyond that. And it was developed back in 2016 in an interlocal cooperation agreement, just so it's a planning tool, so we know what we're building towards, and so they can plan and build more efficiently to where their city will grow to.
So it's all of Gretna and beyond. Was that fair to say?
It's beyond their city limits, yeah. And you may recall, the boundaries, even with the school districts, we're serving like the Gretna high school or middle school that's north of Highway 370. So that could create some confusion that, okay, that Gretna school is served with M.U.D water when Gretna has their own water system. So a lot of different lines out there. I'm glad we've got this interlocal agreement that was well thought through and discussed back in 2016, so we're all on the same page.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Personnel, Vice President of Human Resources, Bonnie Savine, will now review employee wage and/or salary increases and ratifications behind tab 10.
Good afternoon. Bonnie Savine, Vice President, Human Resources. I'll do a quick recap of employee counts for the end of March in the last 2 years. At the end of March 2024, we had 890 regular full-time employees and 5 regular part-time employees. That was a total of 895. To end this March, we have 891 regular full-time employees and 3 regular part-time employees. So that's a total of 894. We also had 14 interns on staff at that time. A review of jobs actively in various stages of job placement. We'll hit that very quickly here. We had 7 jobs with requisitions routing for approval right now. We have 3 jobs that are posted, and that is for a total of 10 vacancies. 2 of those postings are external only, and that is a pipe layer trainee and a mechanic. You'll see that on the screen. And we also have 1 job that's internal only at this time. We have 14 jobs in the application review or interview stages, and we have 3 jobs that have several candidates that are going through onboarding. That is a total of about 30 new placements that we anticipate coming on board here in the next few weeks to a month or so. Behind tab 10, you'll find the wage and/or salary increases and ratifications letter. Human Resources is recommending the Board of Directors approve wage or salary increases, and that is for 10 employees this month. We have 9 OAC employees that are receiving a wage increase due to a promotion. We have 1 OAC employee that is being promoted into an SPA role, thus receiving a salary increase. I will point out as well, in the last section of the letter is a request to ratify the salary of 1 new SPA employee. Are there any questions? Okay, and I will take just 1 additional minute of your time to speak briefly to a request Director McGowan made in last month's meeting to provide an overview of the district's work-from-home policy. We have approximately 900 employees, as I just outlined. 367 have a work-from-home agreement on file that allows them to work up to 2 days or 3 days from home, depending on business needs. We have 62 other employees that have an agreement on file for work from home on occasion with approval from a supervisor. We do have a company policy that is in the personnel policy manual that provides consistent language, and all employees that are eligible do have to have a signed work from home agreement on file. That's on file with Human Resources, and it's online available for them and their supervisors to review at any time. And that helps ensure expectations are communicated. Department guidelines do vary from anything of occasional up to 2 days or 3 days per week work from home. And last thing I'll add is our occupancy levels are monitored, as is the utilization of work from home. And we do monitor that and audit it. It's based on several factors. The occupancy levels are anything from vacations to field work, or adverse weather may be a factor that impacts our occupancy on any day. But as I noted, work from home's monitored, and we do look for compliance with the policy.
Bonnie, I'd like to just say, I asked for this review to get a copy of the policy because prior to last month, I was asked by a couple constituents, what's M.U.D's policy? And I suspect that was generated because of the federal government laying off people and working from home and that
Sure.
stuff. But I was asked, and honestly, I did not know what the policy was. So that's why I asked for the review. And I got the copy that you gave to me. Mark had sent it to me over the computer. And I read through it. And let me just say, it's a good policy. I really liked it. I thought there were some good controls in there, control for management opportunities for employees. And I think it's really a good type policy. And I'd urge any board member, if you haven't seen the policy, ask Bonnie to get it for you and read through it. It'll give you a lot of comfort in knowing that it's managed well. And I trust management, and I'm happy with it. And now I know what our policy is, and I feel good about it. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Thanks, Bonnie. J&L, Government Relations Attorney Rick Kubat will now review the third legislative report for 2025 behind tab 11. Rick?
Good afternoon. Today is day 55 of the 90-day session. They are tentatively set to adjourn on June 9th. The legislature has begun for full-day floor debate, and one of the issues that they'll be grappling with this session is trying to fix a $289 million budget shortfall. Really, I want to just highlight two bills today. The first and the last bill, LB 36, which was introduced to provide a little bit more teeth in our wellhead protection areas. That will likely be a 2-year bill. Ironically, that bill has been prioritized, but what the senator is going to likely do, because we're still negotiating an agreement with planning and zoning people, is take out our provision of the bill and use it for a vehicle for other priorities within the Natural Resources Committee. So we're hopeful that we can get something done with the wellhead protection areas, but in all likelihood, we'll probably have to look at doing it next session. The only other bill I wanted to highlight on the report is the one on the last page, which is LB 580 by Senator Michaela Cavanaugh. Senator Cavanaugh sits on the Appropriations Committee, and this is the bill that essentially asks that any leftover funds in the lead service line cash fund be reinstated into the subsequent biennium budget. I do want to mention I'm thankful that the Omaha Chamber of Commerce, the Nebraska Water Resources Association, and the Nebraska American Academy of Pediatrics all weighed in support of our efforts as it relates to that bill. So with that, would be happy to answer any questions should you have any. Thank you.
Thanks for the good work, Rick. Insurance and Pensions, Senior Vice President, CFO Mark Myers will present the actuarial valuation report on the retirement plan found behind tab 12.
Good afternoon. Mark Myers, Senior Vice President, Chief Financial Officer. As mentioned, I'll be discussing the information behind tab 12 related to the district's pension plan. Behind that tab, you'll find a summary memo and 3 documents that have been prepared by our actuaries at CAVMAC. And just for your awareness, our actuarial consultants were previously named Cavanaugh McDonald Consulting. They've recently gone through a rebranding and have officially shortened their name to CAVMAC. The first of the 3 CAVMAC documents is Actuarial Valuation Report. This is a comprehensive review of the district's pension plan and includes a very comprehensive executive summary on the first few pages. Within there are a couple of key pieces of information: the actuarial funded ratio and the amount of the district's actuarially determined contribution needed to fund the plan. I'm pleased to report that the actuarial funded ratio as of January 1st, 2025 is 93.7%, or rounded to 94%. This is a slight improvement compared to last year's ratio of 92.9% and continues to reflect a strong financial position for the pension plan. The second item to highlight from the valuation report is the district's actuarially determined contribution for 2025. This amount has been calculated to be $12 million. However, management is recommending that we contribute $12.9 million to the plan, which is equal to the amount we contributed in 2024. It should be noted that we did budget for $13.8 million in 2025. While this recommendation of 12.9 is less than the budget amount, it still exceeds the actuarially determined contribution by $900,000 or 7%. This is consistent with our practice historically to contribute more than the actuarially determined amount. It helps to contribute toward the unfunded liability and helps to improve that funded ratio over time. And it also helps to offset the impact of any unfavorable results that could occur in 2025 compared to the actuarial assumptions. The next document you have is the GASB 67 and 68 report. This provides information that's needed to record the net pension liability and pension expense in the annual financial statements. That's according to the governmental accounting standards. The one item to highlight in this report is pension expense, which was determined to be $12 million in 2024. That's higher than the pension expense reported in 2023, which was $7.4 million. And the increase is primarily driven by non-cash actuarial adjustments and the impact of investment returns that fluctuate from year to year. Steve Dickus will be presenting the 2024 financial results in the next agenda item, and he'll discuss that a little bit further then. Next, I'd like to introduce Pat Beckham. She is a principal and consulting actuary with CAVMAC, and she'll present a few highlights about the pension plan. That's presented on the screen, and you also have that in your binders as well.
Thank you, Mark. Good afternoon. It's good to be back with you in my little annual homage here to your headquarters. I always feel like Mark does such a good job, I could just say, ditto, we're out of here. But I have my associate Megan Skiles with me today. She's worked on your plan for 8 years behind the scenes, and so she's now a credentialed actuary, and we're getting her out in front of boards, and you guys are so nice and kind that I wanted this to be her first experience. I'm going to just kind of kick us off, and then we'll kind of tag team. I'll wrap up. But if you could move the slides forward, please. Thank you. So just a reminder about this process. Funding a pension plan is a very long-term proposition. When we look at the expected benefit payments to the current members, they go out nearly 100 years. And of course, the plan is open, so there's always new people coming in. So it's a long-term obligation, but we don't want to wait and pay for it when they retire. We want to basically fund the benefits while people are actively working. And then that money will accumulate with investment income and be sufficient to pay the benefits. So it's called actuarial funding, pre-funding, advanced funding. The whole idea is we want to put money into a trust fund now that will accumulate and pay the benefits as they come due in the future. The valuation is really kind of a mathematical process or evaluation of those future benefit payments. We put a value on those. We compare it to the assets that are in the trust fund, and then your funding policy helps us calculate the amount that should be contributed in the current plan year. Every year when we do the valuation, we capture everything that happened in the last 12 months. It's usually not exactly what the assumptions anticipated, so it creates sort of a new glide path to how we're going to get the plan to 100% funded and beyond. The goal is that contributions would be level as a percentage of payroll. So the dollars of contributions will still go up even if the contribution rate is stable. We're fighting a lot of factors. The biggest one is volatility in the investment return. So we do have a few tools in the toolbox that handle that, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. If I could have the next slide, please. So just from a 30,000-foot view, what impacted the 2025 valuation results? Or what really happened in 24 that was reflected in the 25 results. So we look at both assets and liabilities. Again, remember, liabilities are benefit payments to members in the future. On the asset side, we had an investment return on the market value of just under 11%. That's positive. We don't use pure market value in the funding calculations. It is used in the accounting numbers. But for our purposes, volatility in investment return creates volatility in the funded status and volatility in the contribution. That's not popular, particularly with governmental employers. So we use an asset smoothing method. It's still market related, but it just gives the ups and downs a little bit of time to average out there. So the return on actuarial or smooth value was just over 7%, which is greater than the assumption of 6.75. That generates what we call an actuarial gain. It was more favorable than what was anticipated by the assumptions. That amount was $2.7 million. And last year we had the actuarial value of assets was higher than market value, and that has since flipped with that strong return, and now the actuarial value is lower than market, so that we say we have deferred gains. If all the other assumptions are met, we have a little bit of a gain that's going to flow through in the next few years. On the liability side, there were higher salary increases than what was assumed. So higher benefits, higher salaries equal higher benefits equal higher liabilities than expected. And then the actual COLA increase in 2024 was higher than our assumption. So that created a liability actuarial loss of $2.3 million, so pretty close to offsetting. Net experience was $0.3 million gain. A gain will lower the unfunded liability and tend to lower the contribution rate. So with that, I'm going to let Megan kind of cover the details of the valuation, and then I'll wrap up at the end.
On the next slide, please. We have a brief summary of the plan membership as of the current valuation date and the last valuation date. So you can see as of January 1st, the active member population, or the employees who are currently working and accruing a benefit, increased about 1% since last year. And the retirees and beneficiaries, or the in-pay members, also increased about 1% from last year. On the next slide, we have a brief summary of the valuation results. As Pat mentioned, we have the actuarial liability. That's the amount of liability that we attribute to past years of service. So that went up from last year. We're now at about $618 million. Our actuarial value of assets, that's that smoothed asset value, is about $580 million. And then the difference between those two numbers is our unfunded actuarial liability, or the shortfall that we need to make up to get to 100% funded. That's at $39 million, which is down slightly from last year. And then just a key metric that we use is that funded ratio. As Mark mentioned, we're at 93.7% on the actuarial value, and at 95% on a market value basis, and both of those are up from last year as well. The next slide just shows a historical graph of the funded ratio of the plan. So you can see where that 94% compares to the last 15 years of history. One key thing to note is Nebraska has that 80% threshold, where if you're below 80%, you have to go report to the council. But you guys have not had to worry about that. You've been doing a nice job funding. The next slide, we have a summary of our contribution results for this year and last year's results. So the total contribution rate in this valuation is 22.72%. Of that, the employees contribute 9% each year. So then your employer contribution rate is the remaining 13.72%. And as Pat mentioned, you contribute based on a percent of payroll. So our estimated covered payroll was 87.6 million. So even though your employer rate was down, the actuarial determined contribution amount increased to 12 million because that payroll amount went up as we expect it to each year. And then our recommended district contribution this year, as Mark said, we'd like to recommend at least 12.9, which is what was put in for 2024. So anything above the actuarially determined amount will just help to increase your funded ratio faster and protect against adverse experience. And then the next slide, please. This is a summary of the key things that impacted the valuation results this year. So two of our big metrics are that district contribution rate and our funded ratio. And they both moved in the direction we want them to. The district contribution rate went down and our funded ratio went up. You can see that the biggest component of this was the positive investment experience for 2024. And then we did have that demographic loss or that actuarial loss that negatively impacted, but was enough to be offset by the investment experience. And then another thing I like to point out is that second light blue line, you can see the impact of putting in more than the actuarially recommended or the actuarially determined contribution amount. So last year you put in that additional 1.5 million, and you can see how that directly lowered your contribution rate and increased your funded ratio. Then on the next slide, we have a graph of historical employer contributions. So that yellow line is or the orange line is the district contribution amount, and the blue bars are the actuarially determined contribution. So you can see how over the last 15 years you've been at or above the actuarial amount. That's just that history of putting in additional contributions to help increase your funded ratio. And with that, I'll pass it back to Pat.
Thanks, Megan. So if we could have the next slide, please. So I mentioned earlier that our nemesis for pension funding is investment return volatility. This is what we call a sensitivity analysis to just illustrate that point with numbers to kind of drive that home. So what you have are three scenarios with a different return just in calendar year 2025. After that, we're assuming all assumptions are met, including the 6.75 investment return assumption. So the orange color is in the middle of the bottom row is if we earn 6.75 this year and every year thereafter. So that's the all assumptions met. And you can see that the dollar amounts still go up slightly. Again, even if that rate stays steady, or in this case, it's going down a little bit because we're reflecting those deferred investment gains, the payroll's going up. So when you take that percentage times a higher payroll, the dollars are going up a little bit, but nothing dramatic. But you can see what the sensitivity analysis is sort of a plus or minus 10% return. So the dark blue bars are if we earn 10% higher than our assumed rate in 2025. And that would be 16.75. So you can see, it's probably not rocket science, but basically if you earn more, then you have to put less money in. There's only two sources of revenue to pay benefits. It's contributions or investment income. So there's an inverse relationship there. If you earn more, you don't have to put as much money in. If you earn less, you put more money in. And that's what you see, again, on the lighter blue. That's if if there is a minus 3.25% return in 2025, then you start seeing those contribution dollars ramp up, because whatever we lose on the investment earnings, when I say lose, and that's actuarially means we didn't hit our 675. Okay, so even if you have a +3, it's an actuarial loss. We recoup that with payments over 20 years to make the plan.
Question for you, and this might be a question for Mark too. Philosophically, so we've budgeted 13+ million for the contribution this year, but the recommendation is below what we've budgeted. Is that based on the anticipated fluctuation in the market so as not to put more money in a market that we're not completely confident in for this year?
Do you want to speak to that?
I want to speak to this a little bit, Mark Doyle, President. So if you look at, can you go back to the graph that shows, yeah, that one. Okay. On my watch, I guess I'll say in 18, you can see we've spread the distance between the actuarial recommended contribution and what we're contributing significantly. I mean, this wasn't just a coincidence. We did some really good things back in 11 and 12 with changing our investment advisors, and CFOs came up. We really did some nice things that got us into a spot where, you know, we're comfortable with that. We're at a great funding percentage. Thank you for the analysis of, you know, some crazy return, 6.75, and some really hopefully not. That doesn't happen to us. And I want to have this conversation. I met with Pat, I met with Mark, and talked this over and said, you know, our budgeted amount, great. What is it, 13.8? Okay. And then we have this amount that, this isn't Mark's amount. This is a good discussion with Pat and Mark Myers saying, philosophically, what do we want to do here? I think putting almost $1 million in above and beyond the actuarial recommended is still a really good thing. Not locked into it. This is the public investing in our pensions. So I really want to be cognizant of now and well beyond me to have these conversations of what's appropriate above and beyond. We want to keep our promises and all that, and I'm still not real clear. 94 is great. Do we ever want to be at 100? I don't know. I think so. It's like in the call center. You can't afford to answer every call in 1 second. So there's a real philosophical discussion I want the board to have. I think this is in place. So I don't mean to cut Mark or Pat off, but part of this is me saying, what is the appropriate amount? That isn't like a rate increase where if we save 1% or if we add 1%, it's compounded into the future. This is kind of a one-time thing. I mean, if we only went 900,000 versus, well, you know what I'm saying. The difference between 900,000 and what we will do if we hit the budget, that's kind of a one-time thing. That's not really a compounded return to our budget. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Can I chime in a little bit? I'm sorry, Pat.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Can I, because I've had discussions with Mark about this earlier in the week, and the actuarial amount that's to be funded is what, 12 million? But you and Mark and everybody agreed to 12.9, which is above the actuarial amount, which is good. Our past practice has been to contribute what we budgeted, which has always been higher than what actuarially is needed. Now, you said earlier, one of the variables, big variables, is the market volatility. Well, we all know what the market's done this first quarter because of the tariff uncertainty. The S&P it closed March 31st at the low, with the biggest drop in since 2022. We've experienced quite a bit of market volatility, and with the tariffs that being proposed and everything, who knows what's going to happen. I hate to see that market volatility erode our 94%. We do have a cushion from the deferred gain from last year of 8 million or something like that, but that could be eroded pretty quick. What I would, and I mentioned this to a couple board members, Gwen and others, and I told Mark, what I am going to propose that the board consider that we do fund at the budget amount, 13.8. Because of the market volatility, I don't want to lose any of our percentage of contribution. And so, and if I'm correct, Mark Myers can correct me if I'm wrong, I think we're ahead of budget financially for the first quarter. So if we're ahead of budget financially, and we have the volatility of concerns with the market and the lowering of our potential, 94%, I say let's go back to our practice we've had in the last several years. Let's put in what we budgeted for. We're ahead of budget anyhow. Let's do that and give us another cushion besides the deferred gain.
100% okay with whatever the board wants to go, and Director McGowan and I have had some good discussion. I didn't want to change the documents at this late hour, so I think this is a great discussion for now and the future. I'm not factoring in the market the same way. I'm hoping, the remodel your house scenario is true. I'm not sure if it is, but I am concerned about that, right? That's one of the drivers, so I'm okay either way. Fair? Did we miss anything, Mark or Pat?
No, I don't think so, and we have a little saying in pension funding, pay me now or pay me later, but if you pay later, it's with interest. So, I think we're all concerned about what's going on in the economy and the world in general, but again, you are a long-term investor, so we ride out the highs and unfortunately the lows as well. Your actuary is never going to tell you not to put in more money. So the more the better. We're greedy. But yeah, your plan is very well funded. You should be really proud of that. And again, a lot of that back in 2012 was to try to stabilize the contribution so they weren't bouncing around with the actuarial contribution, and then fund up to 100% more rapidly. And it's worked really magically. So kudos on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I would just add that I agree with what Mark and Pat have both said. We were just trying to balance the appropriate level of contribution to other cash needs, but certainly some good points made here, and I would be open to whatever the board decides.
And I'll just toss out, because I know there's uncertainty everywhere, you could put it in any time during 2025. So if things change later in the year, can always revisit as an option. Any other questions on that? We have just a couple slides. I know you guys like to kind of see what other plans in Nebraska look like. So we gather some information. Now, to be honest, this information comes from the Nebraska Retirement Committee requirement that plans, below 80% report to the committee, along with information that CAVMAC has available from clients that we work with. But slide 11, this is the funded ratio for other plans in Nebraska that we have information on. Be a little cautious because everybody's assumptions are not the same, right? But obviously, you guys are rock stars. The state plans are, there's actually 5 of them, but if you aggregate them, they're 100% funded. That's a little bit better than you guys. Central Nebraska is 93% funded, and plan's been closed for a number of years, so it's not really comparable to you guys as well. But yes, a lot to be proud of. If every plan I went to visit was 94% funded, I would be quite the happy person. I'm still trying to be happy, but it can be more of a challenge if you're like 54% funded. The next slide goes a little bit hand in hand. This is the investment return assumption and being used by other plans, and I really do have to caution you on this one because an investment return assumption can vary for many reasons. Asset allocation is huge. If you have a different asset allocation, generally, if you're going to take more risk, you expect to get more return. If a plan is closed, it's a different dynamic than if they're open. And last but not least, the board's risk tolerance factors in for where you end up on kind of that reasonable range. So everybody is not the same. And we have seen rates come down. Probably 10 or 12 years ago, the median rate was 8%, and the average was 8, and now the median is 7, and the average is 6.91. So we've seen a dramatic shift down in the investment return assumption. And again, when that shifts down, costs go up. And again, you guys have made a significant change, and yet you're still 94% funded, which is great. And so you can see you're on the far right-hand side with the orange bar, and you can see a number of other plans Again, some are lower, some are higher, but you're in a very, I think, strong position. I will mention that we do have an experience study scheduled for later this year. By statute, we have to do those every 4 years, but we need the data from the 1/1/25 valuation before we can start our work. So we'll be bringing that to you later, probably late summer, early fall. And we look at all the assumptions, including the investment return assumption. So next slide, and I will wrap up. I know you have other things to talk about. Again, we did have net favorable experience last year. Everything is really firing on all cylinders here, right? I think, the investment return assumption has been lowered. You're funding above the actuarial rate. You have a strong funded ratio. I'm very, very satisfied with where things are at. I hope you are too. The secret to these plans is to fund them. It doesn't matter if you're an individual in a 401k plan or a governmental pension plan. If you don't put the money in, if you don't contribute, it won't work. And you guys have proven that, and I use you as an example. So I think the stable contribution policy was a really good policy to implement. That's been probably 13 years ago, and it's paid off very, very well. So we appreciate your business, and it's always good to be with you. Any other questions, and we'll let you get to your other business.
Pat, as part of your experience study that you're going to be completing this year, will you make a recommendation as to our targeted rate of return, 6.75%? Is that good or bad? Will you recommend going lower, or will that be part of your study, a recommendation?
Yes, Director McGowan, that will be part of our analysis, and we will rely on PNC, your investment consultants, for some input on that as well.
They're going to leave us in suspense.
Yes.
They're going to leave us in suspense, I can tell.
We don't
That's
show our
been a
cards.
great discussion, though, and when I see how we stack up with others, and I know there are other factors, it's really a good discussion. And I want to thank the board for taking the time, the committee, and then the full board. I know these meetings can get long, but for you to understand this and to support this is employee benefits we're talking about, and to understand that our employees appreciate it. This would be much harder if you really didn't dive in and look at what this is. It'd be real easy to just somebody to come in and say this is not a good thing. So we sincerely thank you for your interest and your support. It's not the funnest thing to talk about, but it's about as important as anything.
Now, I have one other thing, Tim.
It is for me.
Director Howard will be making the motion as part of the meeting to approve this. I just threw out the fact that I think we ought to be funding it at the budgeted level, 13.8 million, versus the 12.9 that's recommended. It's a higher than the actuarial, but I just want to, is everybody okay with that? Because if we are, then when she makes her recommendation, she can ask for approval at the 13.8 million.
For me?
No.
I think you will be doing.
No, I would be voting no on that. I want to go with what the recommendation is.
Right.
Stay the course.
Recommendation, the 12.9?
Yes, sir.
You don't want to do the budgeted amount?
That'd be no. I mean, if you have the votes, go for it.
Would you offer an amendment to the recommendation, the 12.9 million recommendation for management?
Yes, I plan to.
Is that the appropriate way to do this?
Like a substitute motion.
Okay, all right. And I just want to be real clear, we're okay either way. We took a little harder look at it for all the reasons said, but, I appreciate your interest, and Director Gow, that's a good recommendation too. We're not gonna turn you down. So it's really a choice.
Did we talk about this in the committee meeting?
This is the
our one for the pension and.
Altering it,
I don't think we talked about this. Thanks.
Well, this is the committee meeting, and management's made a recommendation to us, and Mike possibly is offering a substitute motion.
I understand. I just was trying to jog my memory as to if we talked about it in our subcommittee, I guess maybe is what we're calling it. We did not.
It may seem like we're in next month's meeting, but we're still in the committee meeting.
Or in June meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to make note on page 12. You notice that the higher the return assumptions are the organizations that have the lower funding. So if we increased our assumption up to where they're at, we could be 100%, but I don't think it's realistic. Anybody else? Oh. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And nice to meet you, too. Okay, audit. Vice President of Accounting, Steve Dickus, will present the 2024 audited financial statements behind tab 13.
Good afternoon. Steve Dickus, Vice President of Accounting. The information related to the 2024 audited financial statements is located behind tab 13 in your materials. And this includes a summary memo along with the 2024 financial statements and supplemental schedules. Excuse me, Jay, we're not quite ready to show this one yet. A meeting of the audit committee was held on March 17th, and representatives from the accounting firm of RSM, our auditors, presented the results of the audit during the meeting and addressed questions from the committee members at that time. I'm pleased to report RSM has expressed a clean or unmodified opinion, which means our financial statements present fairly the financial position of both the gas and water departments as of December 31st, 2024. This, of course, is great news and a credit to the entire accounting staff and others across the organization who contribute to the accurate reporting of the district's financial statements. Kevin Smith, partner with RSM, and Nicole Hamlin, assurance manager with RSM, are both in attendance today. And I will now turn the over to Kevin, and he'll make a few additional comments about the audit.
Good afternoon, board members. Kevin Smith with RSM. As Steve mentioned, the opinion that we issued over MUD's 12/31/2004 financial statements was a clean opinion. That is the main purpose of our audit. That is the highest level of assurance you can receive as a part of an external audit. We also do look at internal controls as they relate to financial reporting. We don't give an opinion on internal controls, but we do have the responsibility to report back to you any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. Pleased to report that there were neither of those reported in the audit material in front of you. Overall, the audit went very well, full cooperation from management, and no difficulties encountered performing the work, had access to all the information that we needed to as a part of the audit process. And as Steve mentioned, we did meet with the committee a few weeks ago to go through this in a little bit more detail. So keeping my comments brief today, but I'm happy to answer any questions or go into further detail if you'd like.
That doesn't mean it's not great news.
I know.
That's the point. Thank you for your work on this.
It would seem that a clean audit is the top-notch criteria, correct?
Correct.
So I guess we're pretty pleased with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
AEF&R, Mr. Dickus will continue with the 2024 financial review.
Good afternoon again. I will present a brief recap of the financial results for 2024. And Jay, if you could bring that presentation up on the monitor, please. Thank you. These financial results were also shared with the audit committee meeting, with the audit committee at the March 17th meeting. The results were also included in the December report on income and finance, which was distributed to the board members last week on March 28th. And beginning on slide 2, we have a high-level summary of revenue, expenses, and net income combined for the gas and water companies. From a revenue perspective, the district performed well for the year, with revenue exceeding budget and prior year amounts on the water side, and slightly down from budget, but higher than prior year on the gas side. I will note that combined net operating revenue for gas and water companies totaled $284.5 million. This was $0.5 million or 0.2% higher than budget And that overachievement was driven primarily by higher volumes sold at the water company, as shown in the chart at the top right side, which shows higher volumes. Directing your attention down to the lower left chart, operating expenses and other. This presents operating expenses which totaled $189.8 million combined. This was $17.1 million lower than budget. Some of the more significant favorable items that contributed to this variance include year-end adjustments related to pension and OPEB expense, resulting in a $17.5 million reduction to expense. We also had $5.2 million in lower than budgeted lead service line replacement expense due to timing, and $2.4 million in lower water service reconnections and replacements as part of our WER program. These favorable variances were partially offset by $4.6 million in lower PHMSA gas grant revenue compared to budget. PHMSA is an acronym. It stands for the Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, and you'll recall that the district has been awarded PHMSA grants to help offset the cost of replacing a certain portion of its cast iron gas mains. An additional unfavorable 2024 budget variance relates to $4.1 million in lower water grant revenue due to timing of the district's lead service line replacement project. This results in net income that was higher than budget in 2024 for both gas and water. As shown in the bottom right chart, combined net income was $94.7 million, or $17.6 million higher than the budgeted amount of $77.1 million. Next slide, please. This slide shows the pension and OPEB component of the annual budget and net income variance, which is a non-cash item. And the purpose of presenting this slide is just to highlight the fact that on a combined annual net income basis, if you exclude the non-cash pension and OPEB component, net income was quite close to the combined annual budget. In fact, only $0.1 million favorable. Next slide, please. This slide presents the changes in unrestricted cash balances over the last 5 quarters. These unrestricted balances exclude bond project funds and bank accounts that may be restricted for other purposes. The gas department ended 2024 with $187.9 million of unrestricted cash. This is up $6.3 million from December of 2023. The number of days cash on hand increased from 330 in December of 23 to 421 at the end of 2024. This increase is almost entirely due to the lower cost of natural gas experienced over the past year, which decreases the average daily cash requirements used in the calculation. Switching to the water side, the water department ended 2024 with $101.5 million of unrestricted cash, which is down $20.1 million compared to 2023. This represents 353 days cash on hand, which decreased from 453 in the prior year.
Steve?
Yes, sir.
On the water side, isn't this something we see typically every year, that coming out of the winter, going into the summer, we see a reduction in cash on hand for water? And then with the water sales and the increased revenues, we start seeing an uptick?
That is true. We'll generally see higher cash balances in the summer months when the volumes are higher. I would point out there's a decrease year over year at December. We did spend additional CapEx on water mains in 2024 compared to 2023, and that difference drove the majority of the decrease from last December to this December.
Thank you.
Sure. Next slide, please. This slide shows a list of other key financial metrics for the district. One important measure is the debt service coverage ratio. The district continues to be in compliance with this requirement related to the water and gas revenue bonds. And these bond agreements require that the district maintains rates or charges for services that will provide an amount sufficient to pay current expenses and also generate net revenue at least equal to 1.2 times the amount of the average principal and interest requirements on the outstanding bonds. So generally, debt service coverage ratios above 2.0 are considered strong, and you can see that we're well above that and also slightly ahead of last year. The next two metrics address the district's commitment to funding the promises made to our employees. Pat and Mark mentioned the pension funding ratio. I'd also point out that we continue to fund the OPEB plan, and that funded ratio has increased to 63% compared to 56% a year ago. The district contributed $12 million in 2024 to the OPEB plan, with $7.8 million of this invested in the trust and an additional $4.2 million paid for retiree medical claims and fees out of operating cash. And finally, credit ratings. You'll see a list of the most recent ratings assigned to the district by the three primary rating agencies. The district's financial health was affirmed in December of 2024, and also recently in March of 2025, S&P Global upgraded their rating for a water department to AA+, which is their second highest rating, and more recently, the same firm also affirmed our AA+ credit rating on our gas department. In summary, we exited 2024 in a solid position, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Steve, I'll pose a question to you, and I apologize if I've asked this before, and you may not be the person to ask it of, but I'll throw it out there. In 2023, the district received a $10 million PHMSA grant. In 2024, the district received a $25 million PHMSA grant. Is there any way to know the status of, in particular, the $25 million grant, given that there have been numerous federal grants and funding canceled? Have we started to draw down on that $25 million yet?
Yeah, I could speak to that. You're correct. We did earn two grants, $10 million and $25 million. We executed a grant agreement on the $10 million. Through 2024, we received $466,000 for that one. That was lower than budget, but through February 2025, the district has received an additional $483,000 for the first $10 million grant. So that total grant proceeds amount is up to $949,000 through the end of February. On the $25 million grant, we are in the process of submitting a revised application. Because we were awarded less than we originally sought, we have to submit a revised budget narrative and project narrative. We're expected to do that in the next few days, and at that point, we will start the process to execute that agreement, but that is further behind.
Okay, and I appreciate that, and I'm sure since we had the entire Nebraska congressional delegation here about a year ago, Senator Ricketts, Senator Fisher, Congressman Bacon, I hope they will be helpful in helping us attain as much of that $25 million as we were awarded.
Agreed. Thank you.
I want to understand, we still are owed eligible for the $9 million of the first $10 million? Because Mark Doyle and I went down to the Capitol and I got to hold the big check. It's
right up there.
Oh, yeah. And that was fun.
That's an executed agreement, and they continue to pay on that obligation.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Committee of the Whole, Director of Infrastructure Integrity, Evan Martin, and Senior Infrastructure Engineer, Derek Dewan, will present the Infrastructure Replacement Program update.
I am not Evan Martin or Derek Dewan, Mark Mendenhall, Senior Vice President, General Counsel. I believe in light of the timing of today's meeting, we've asked Mr. Martin, Mr. Dewan, I'm looking at Mr. Matha, Mr. Nia, and Mr. Minor. We will look forward to bringing Mr. Martin and Mr. Dewan back next month.
Thank you. Good idea. Okay, public comment. Are there any members of the public in attendance today who would like to address the board before the general board meeting? Are there any board members who would like to bring up any business at this point?
I don't have any business, I'd just like to make a comment. I got my M.U.D bill last week, and in the insert is mains and services. I don't know if you saw it or not. It was well-written, it's very worthwhile to read and everything. I just want to thank Tracy Christensen and her team for doing a great job. It's a great communication. It really lays out everything you want to know about ownership. Thank you.
Yeah, it does. I concur. It's very educational on what's yours, what's ours. Okay, this committee meeting has concluded. We'll reconvene for the regular board meeting in 2 minutes. Okay, let's take our seats. We're going to get rolling.
Oh, mayonnaise.
All right, I would like to call the meeting to order. I am Tim Cavanaugh, Chairman of the Metropolitan Utilities District Board of Directors, and I'd like to welcome you all to the regular monthly board meeting this afternoon, April 2nd, 2025. This meeting is being live streamed from the boardroom at the M.U.D headquarters, located at 7350 World Communications Drive, and a recording of this meeting will be uploaded to the M.U.D website after the meeting's conclusion. And I just want to add that the open meetings Act notice is still posted back there. Nobody's taken it down. Roll call. There she is.
Howard.
Here.
Kavanaugh.
Here.
Begley.
Here.
Cook.
Here.
Friend.
Here.
Sidzik.
Here.
McGowan.
Here.
Allegiance, I'd like to invite those who wish to participate for the Pledge of Allegiance. Leave your mic on. Oh, that's me.
To the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the committee and regular board meetings for March 5th, 2025. Do we have such motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Howard.
Yes.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Begley.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Sidzik.
Yes.
McGowan.
Yes.
Capital expenditures, Director Friend.
Thank you. Item number 5, capital expenditures discussed in committee. I move approval as outlined in the memo from Kendall Minor dated March 25th.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Howard.
Yes.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Begley.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Friend.
Sorry, yes.
Sidzik.
Yes.
McGowan.
Yes.
Acceptance of contract and payment of final estimates. Item 6, Director Friend again.
Thank you. Also discussed in committee. I move approval as outlined in the memo from Trevor Tonagis dated March 19th.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Howard.
Yes.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Begley.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Sidzik.
Yes.
McGowan.
Yes.
Bids and materials and contracts. Director Friend again.
Thank you. Also discussed in committee. I move approval as outlined in the memo from Sherry Lightfoot dated March 19th.
Second. And discussion? Roll call.
Yes. Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Begley.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Sidzik.
Yes.
McGowan.
Yes.
Item 8, notice of purchases between $25,000 and $50,000. Director Friend.
Direct that those be placed on file.
Agenda item number 9, main extensions. Director Friend.
Thank you. Also, this was discussed in committee. I move approval as outlined in the memo from Masa Nia dated March 24th.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Howard.
Yes.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Begley.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Sidzik.
Yes.
McGowan.
Yes.
Item 10, wage and/or salary increases and ratifications. Director Begley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move for approval of the wage and/or salary increases and ratifications as discussed in committee this afternoon and outlined in Ms. Savine's memo dated March 20th, 2025.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Howard.
Yes.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Begley.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Sidzik.
Yes.
McGowan.
Yes.
Item 11, termination hearing. Director Begley. Referring to Director Sidzik. Did you want to recuse yourself on the record?
I will when we come up for the vote.
Okay.
Yes, termination hearing on Dan Murphy. I'd like to make a motion to terminate employee Dan Murphy.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Howard.
Yes.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Begley.
Abstain?
Cook.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Sidzik.
Yes.
McGowan.
Yes.
Agenda item 12, the third legislative report to be placed on file. Agenda item 13, actuarial valuation report on the retirement plan. Director Howard.
Thank you, Director Kavanaugh. Motion to approve management's recommendation for the actuarial contribution as detailed behind tab 12, and also to place actuarial report on file.
Second.
I would,
And what is that recommendation?
The management's recommendation.
And that's 12.9?
Exactly. Thank you.
I'd like to make a substitute motion, if I could. I'd like to propose that we fund the actuarial pension plan, and the pension at $13.8 million rather than the recommended $12.9 million, because of our past practice of always funding at the budgeted amount, which we've always done. It's an increase of $900,000, but we are above budget for the district for the first quarter, and the stock market has had significant fluctuation in the first quarter, and there's supposedly some more turmoil and fluctuation coming in the next several months, and I would hate to see our good cushion evaporate, the 94% drop, because we didn't fund a little bit more, and we have it in the budget, and we're above budget.
I'll second Director McGowan's motion.
Discussion? I would just note that I like to rely on the expert's opinion, and including our own staff, who I think are very well qualified to make this recommendation of $12.9 million, and I don't see anything wrong with being under budget for some things. We don't always have to go to the budget if there's a way we can achieve our goals without necessarily spending all the money.
Can I just say to Chairman Kavanaugh that we heard Pat Beckham say that she's never against any more funding to the pension plan. She says, I'm always for it. And I've talked with Mark about it, and they don't see any problem with that either. The more we fund, the better off we are, the better cushion we have for some bad news.
Well, and she's always going to say she'd like more money. Yep.
And
Okay.
Mark Doyle, President. Director Cook, to not answer a question, but comment on whether we discussed it or not, because you that made me think, did we, didn't we? Generally, we don't discuss the funding per contribution in those meetings. I think probably we should. And in this case, a budgeted amount is simply, what's happening at that time. So I'm more defending the recommendation as appropriate. But again, I will say, if we want to fund it at that higher budgeted level, I don't know that it's unprecedented, but our budget, and by the way, we're paying month to month, we're contributing month to month. So this can be discussed at a further meeting as well. And it doesn't have to stay one way, and we haven't really done that, but this might be a year where we take a look at it.
So you're saying it could be put on the agenda and we could discuss it at
any quarterly
That's
meeting. And
good to
based on
know.
this discussion, I think we should anyway. But I'm 100% okay with what the board does here. I don't think there's a wrong answer.
Any further discussion?
Could I just seek a point of clarification, Chair Howard, Chair Kavanaugh?
Sure.
Mark Mendenhall, Senior Vice President, General Counsel. So the motion on the floor for consideration would be Director McGowan's, but we're not going to go back, but just for point of clarification, that Director McGowan's motion would also include that the report be placed on file, just so that we've got that record as well.
So noted.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Howard.
No.
Kavanaugh.
No.
Begley.
Yes.
Cook.
No.
Friend.
No.
Sidzik.
No.
McGowan.
Yes?
Motion failed. Back to the original motion by Director Howard. Is there a second on her motion?
Would you like me to repeat that?
Sure, repeat it, please.
Yeah, why don't we go over it again? Motion to approve management's recommendation for the actuarial contribution as detailed behind tab 12, and the amount is 12.9. This would also include to place the actuarial report on file. And do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Discussion? Roll call.
Howard.
See, I knew I'd be up again. Yes.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Begley.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Sidzik?
Yes.
McGowan?
No.
Item 14, audited financial statement. Does this require passage or on file? What's that? To be placed on file.
Oh,
Sorry to,
did you want me to make that?
you can make it, put it on file.
Okay. I recommend that we put the audited report on file as discussed in committee.
Agenda 15 item, Director Begley, President's Performance and Salary Review.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the board approve a 3.25% general and 5% progression salary increase for the president, consistent with all other SPA employees.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Howard?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Begley?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes.
Friend?
Yes.
Sidzik?
Yes.
McGowan?
Yes.
Any other matters of district business for discussion?
Well, I can't pass up the opportunity. I thank you for your support. It's, we don't need to talk about it, and I'm glad we're not.
No.
But thanks for the support. It's
You've
not
earned
taken
it.
for granted. Well, we got a good team here, and we're focused, so we sure appreciate everything you do for us. Thank you.
Are there any members of the public present who would like to address the board? Seeing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Howard?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Begley?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes.
Friend?
Yes.
Sidzik?
Yes.
McGowan?
Yes.
We are adjourned.